And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus live stream. I'm Avon and this is Amanda. How you going?
I'm fantastic. It's Friday afternoon. We've survived another week. We've crushed it. Avon, how about yourself?
Yes. I don't know if I've crushed it or it's crushed me, but there's certainly a lot going on. All in a positive light. But I don't know. Like if you put in the effort to do all the sales and marketing stuff, just be ready for what comes down the pipeline. So,
True.
just keeping up with all the good stuff. So, I guess part of that is today's discussion is going to help with some of that in when to send a proposal, or when not to send a proposal. Maybe it could have been an email, and I think that over the years we've made plenty of mistakes and wasted plenty of time. And there's some frustrations that I know we have. Like I remember early on, we just implemented a system that was tracking like time and hours, and we could build projects out in it. And so someone asked us, "Oh, can I have a quote?" And I put the quote together, and it was literally for like an hour of time. And I spent probably like 2 hours building out this like quote template, and then the design, and then putting the product in. I was keen to do it because it was the first time we were using this particular feature.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sent the quote, and he's like, "Oh no, that's too much. It's a 5-minute job." I'm like, "It's not a 5-minute job." By the time we've talked about it, I open up the thing, I log in, I do the little task, and then I send you the invoice. That's an hour easily. Like that's actually probably a lot more than that. But I don't know. Like, what are you supposed to do? Haven't you had an experience where you've just blown a lot of time on a proposal for no reason?
Absolutely, especially in the early days. If anyone showed any interest and were like, send a proposal, you would put your heart, your soul, like you've just described, into it.
Mm.
And then they ghost you, or this isn't what I was expecting. Absolutely. We've learned from our mistakes, haven't we, Avon?
Well, a lot of times people are benchmarking, like they don't never intend on actually working with. They're like, "Oh, I just want to know how much it would be." You could even have competitors that you're not aware that you're competitors asking you for a proposal. So then you've basically shortcut their time to start with zero proposal to a proposal. They just copy paste, change the price, change the name and logo. So
goodness, there's a scary thought.
What's the longest you've spent on writing a proposal?
I want to say a couple of hours. I would say, yeah.
Well, like there's meeting about the proposal, there's thinking about the proposal, there's writing the proposal, there's editing, getting someone else to proofread it for you. Then you send it. Yeah, like you're probably looking like 6, maybe 7, 8, 10 hours. Yeah, there's a lot.
And absolutely.
I remember like early days, we were using PowerPoint as our like slides as our thing, because I was pretty good at PowerPoint. I could whip it together. We had this slide, so we like hide this slide for that job and like show this slide for another job. Nice. And so we kind of made it template. Well, the very first ones were just Word docs, then PowerPoint slides, because you could hide or show. Then over time, we sort of evolved and got templates. Now we use a platform that's got a URL. I had gone through about 5 or 6 other platforms to get to the point where I'm the one I'm using, because it would send a link that people didn't recognize, or it would try to send the email. And if you send an email with the link to the proposal, if it's from some unknown brand, people are just not going to open it. So you kind of need to put it in your email personally to them and add some context around it. But I think, even that we have a decision point on when to send a proposal. What are some challenges you've had with proposals?
I think, so knowing like when it's appropriate to send the proposal and when it should just be an email, and instead of, like you like to say, like, instead of just using my finger and putting it in the air and deciding like what if this then that criteria, working that out. So a big part of knowing that has been working out what my sales process actually is. That's been that's probably another but you know, being clear on that, and then just knowing what can be templated, if you like. So what stays permanent in your proposals, what's always there, and then what needs to be customized has been super powerful, and it's cut down time. So the biggest challenge was, you know, and you all know yourselves, team, those business owners out there, you're balancing your marketing activities with your sales activities, with your delivery activities, and you know, you want to do the best possible job with these proposals to get them over the line, but they do, unless you can find the best way to do it, they do take so much time to get them right.
Well, there's no sense spending, you know, 3 hours writing a proposal for a 2-hour job, for 2 hours of billable time.
That is true.
Unless of course you've templated the system or the thing that you're going to actually deliver, and maybe it takes you 2 hours, but it's worth, you know, 50 grand as an example. Then, you know, like, go your hardest, spend the time. But if you don't have that equated in the profit margin of the like the sell time, the sell cost, then you're either going backwards or you're just not maximizing your billable time. So if you have a, you know, for us, you know, it's probably different in every business. You got to look at your own costs. You got to look at the how long it takes you to sell. Sometimes you can just whip up something really quickly, and it would you know, be worth a good amount of money, and not really take that much time to sell. Other sales processes, like, big difference if you're selling a water bottle versus selling a house. You know, like, you need a whole big proposal. Obviously, houses are a bit different. It's a very different process, but the idea of the complexity of what you're selling. So for us, our decision point is $10,000. If it's less than $10,000, we'll either just mention it in an email, this much, or if it's more than 5 but less than 10, we might use like you know, your accounting quote system. You can put in the line items, spit it out. It's not the full beautified document, but it's good enough. Then at that point we'll say, yes, this is a proposal. Or we have pages of pre-built products or service, productized services. So you can get option A, option B, option C. There's a URL on a page with all the information, all the selling, all the videos, all the beautified stuff. We'll put that in a link and put it in an email. But we won't go to a full custom proposal where we say, this is your problem, this is what you need, this is why, what we can do and how it is going to help you, unless it's more than a certain time. Otherwise, you're just spending hours and hours and hours for no reason. The other thing you really need to do is qualify on the front end, really, really hard, to go, is this worth your time and mine to write a proposal? Put the client on notice, ask them to say, look, if I write a proposal for you, it's probably going to be about, you know, 3 to 5 hours worth of work. Are you the right person to make a decision?
Love it. Yeah. Just be upfront about how much time and effort's being invested on your end. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. How many other people are in the, are you approaching about this? You know, maybe if they're like, oh, we don't know yet, we're just getting the feelers out there, and say, well, actually, I probably won't do a proposal. I can tell you that, you know, something like this would be between this and that. But if I have to go and do, you know, 10 hours of desktop research before we get into it, you know, that's just going to be a pure cost. And you can charge for that, or you should be able to charge for that. So if, depending on your product or service, if you've got the ability to charge for scoping, then you absolutely should, because it's a great qualifier. Even if you say this comes off a future build price, it just kind of means that you've got a de-risk, you know, like I like, you shouldn't charge them double for it. Like you're sort of saying, go with me or don't go with me, but at least if you go with me, it's going to come off future development. But at least you've got your cost covered, because presumably whilst you're quoting, you're delivering value. I had a conversation today, went for about half an hour, literally solved their whole problem, and they decided they didn't need to work with me, which is fine. I'm happy with that. They'll walk away happy. They'll remember that we delivered an amazing service, and they'll probably tell their friend, we'll come back to us later.
That's it. Yeah. So the value's elsewhere for you out of that conversation, right?
It is, but I chose to solve their problem, and I'm more than happy to help. But
Yeah.
I limit it to 30 minutes, and
Nice. Cool.
if I think it's going to go longer, we book in a technical review session or a breakthrough session,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
that's like our qualifier two-way to say, right, well, in the first chat we've established trust. In the second chat, we've broken down the barrier to go, you're not just a tire kicker. Once we go further, I will invest more time with you, but I've shown you, you've shown me. Now we trust each other. Now let's have a relationship of, doing this project or that project.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. And so that second one that you mentioned, is that a billable, you bill them for that, or does it depend on the situation?
I think it depends. Like, we've done ones where we go in and we do like 3 days worth of consulting. We go and, measure everything. We interview people at different levels, or 5 days, whatever, depending on the size of the organization. That's a consulting engagement. If someone, like, it's more than just a quote, like we'll give them a report. So if someone can walk away from something with something tangible, then it makes sense to charge them for the scoping or the quoting. If you're not going to provide them with anything, it's really, really hard for you to give any value. And so you really have to kind of spend all that time up front doing the proposal on the hope that they will sign up and be your customer. But if you can generate some value for them immediately, then you de-risk them spending the money on that initial engagement or that micro engagement.
Got it. Nice. I like that strategy. That's solid.
Well, I'm pretty sure you do an audit, and the audit is, not that very expensive. It's just a very entry-level thing, but it just reduces the risk for you. Even if it's cost neutral for you, then you can just say to them, look, this gives you an output, and then whether or not you work with me, you could do it yourself, or you can engage us and then get a much better outcome and save yourself a whole bunch of time and energy. So which would you prefer? The obvious choice is work with you.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. But yeah, you're giving them the option, you're giving them a taste of what it's like to work with you and how much time and energy you can save them and what that final output looks like.
Because the other thing is you're protecting your time. You're also displaying that you're not just, open to be walked all over. And you've got the ability to say, well, I have, a busy schedule. And if I'm going to make time for this, we need to be fair and equitable. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste mine. Let's just do this small thing. And once we trust each other, away we go. And you might deliver more. You might deliver 4 hours worth of value in 2 or even 1. Give them a little, basic starter thing. Sometimes even $1 can be enough to get rid of people.
This is true.
If you have a $1 quote fee, just say you want to quote $1, and you can just say, I have a lot of people wasting my time, so $1 gets rid of 99% of time wasters. If you're willing to spend $1 with me, or buy me a coffee for $4.50, whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're willing to do that, I will give you a proposal. If not, great. See you later. And I think that's fair.
I love that. I love that.
Look, it doesn't have to be the massive, cash grab or like revenue driver. But I think it is important to not waste hundreds of hours of your own time doing things that don't make money. Whilst people say, yes, proposals make money, I think proposals are an absolute pit of time if you're not careful.
Yeah, so it's just being smart about them, right?
Making sure you don't get your time used and abused. This was one of the questions we had in the Relevate community.
Yes.
And, we wanted to go a little bit more in detail. I had a couple of experiences to share. I know you've had similar. And, it's just good to be able to go through and give a little bit more or context to the whole notion of, don't waste a year on proposals. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of time and a lot of late nights, particularly as you're growing rapidly. You then have to be doing the work. Like, you, not only are you finding the work, you're got to do the work, but somewhere in the middle, you have to propose the work, which means you have to go and do all the pre-work and scoping. Like, I think there's a fine line. Early on, you probably want to be extremely hands-on and manual to really figure out what the customer wants. And then in a later stage, you then need to structure, template, and automate the hell out of it, and then have some decision rules and criteria to go, hey, listen, I'm busy. I can't just do this for anybody. So if we're going to do it, let's make sure we do it right. And that makes you seem more valuable.
100%. And I guess the other just like extra step on that as well, Avon, we can have one of our team do proposals for us as well, right? That's an option.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, I don't know if you have somehow observed that off the side of me, but yeah, recently I got Antoine, one of our sales guys, to draft. He sits in on the meeting, he takes a heap of notes, he drafts it, send it to me, I skim through, go change that, and that, send it, and then we're good. And yeah, that gives me another probably 3 to 5 hours back every week.
Right, exactly. And I've just started doing that with my team as well. Have them sit in on the meeting, teaching them how to use the software that we use to generate our proposals. And then it just comes back to me so that I can make sure that we're, on time, on budget, and then we can send it off. So,
and I know what people listening are going to say. They're going to say, I'm the only one that knows how to do this. Well, of course, because if you don't try and you don't learn to trust, you'll never get out of the cycle. So bring people into your meetings, record your meetings, transcribe your meetings. It's never been easier with AI to be able to pull out. You even ask ChatGPT to give you a proposal.
Yeah, no excuses, team. No excuses.
It's probably going to be a little bit average. Get your team to go through and modify it, then send it to you. Give the backstory on the customer. Put the problem statement in, bold print. Send it through to you, and then you can review, and then it'll take you 10 minutes instead of 3 hours. Yeah.
Exactly. And just a little hot tip on that, and Avon, I'm sure you're already doing this. If my team can't be on all the meetings, as soon as there's a transcription, a recording, I put it straight in the CRM. So no one has to go looking for anything. Everything is attached to that client, to that lead, to that deal, so that people, everyone's on the same page and there's no confusion. Just make it easy for everyone on the team. Set them up to win.
A central repository. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what are some of the other things that you can do in your proposal? So, we've worked recently together on building out proposal structure. And by having, your proposal should also be a selling tool, not just a selling tool. But I mean that by saying, not the thing that's just in front of you that you're trying to sell, but you can expand the conversation.
You can, yes. So we created video which has samples of our work and testimonials all embedded in the video, which is part of our proposal. FAQs, so frequently asked questions, that's part of the proposal. What else have I? Terms and conditions, part of the proposal. What else do we have in there?
Service catalog.
Yes, service catalog. Yeah, so the proposal can have adjacent things that support why they should work with you and how amazing you are and why you are the only logical choice to be chosen.
Well, just on that service catalog thing, we've sent a proposal off, and it was for, I'll give you arbitrary numbers, but let's just say it was worth 5,000. And then they said, we didn't know that you did this as well. Can we get that and start a separate conversation down that line, which then equated to another $10,000 project. So we tripled the size of the deal just because of the stuff that we had in the proposal.
The information was there, right? And that wouldn't have come up in conversation. Hey, that it was creating an awareness piece, for want of better phrasing.
We didn't know they had a need. They didn't know that we offered that. We didn't go, because you don't want to sit down in front of a conversation. If you do lots of things, 70% of people choose a vendor, a supplier, a product, whatever, to solve a specific problem. So you don't necessarily want to sit down in front of them and go, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And 2 hours later in the conversation, and we do that, and we do that. They're tired, you're tired, everyone's sick of it. But if you make it easily findable or discoverable, then it expands the conversation naturally without you having to force feed a ton of stuff down people's throat. I'm sure you've been to a networking event before where someone gets up, they give their little pitch, and they're like, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this. And then either someone's like, hey, come on, sit down. You only get 30 seconds. Or, they cut their mic because they've just rattled on and on and on and on. Don't do that. Just make it stuff easy to find. give them the highlights and then let them drill down if they want. But other than that, like the more you shove information down people's throats, the more they're going to turn away and they're going to go elsewhere because they're going to get confused. They're going to get frustrated.
100%. Yeah. So just if you want it, it's here. If you want it, it's here. Like just the little breadcrumbs. Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that nicely encapsulates about, doing the proposals correctly, making sure you're not blowing hours and hours of time on people that are not ready to buy. You want to make sure they're qualified. So there's an acronym: BANT: budget, authority to make decision, need, and timeline. If they don't have those 4 things, then they're not really ready to buy. If they've got the budget but not the need, then it's pointless. Even if you sell it to them, now they're just going to not use it, get frustrated, and then you'll end up with a bad review. If they don't have the timeline, well, there's no urgency to solve the problem. And if they don't have the authority to make the decision, you could spend hours pitching to someone who's like, yes, I love it. This is so good. And then you're like, all right, would you like to sign? Oh, no, that's not me. Then they go and tell somebody else further up the chain. And then they're like, not interested. And they don't want to listen to that person. Maybe there's an internal politics or whatever. But this is something that, has wasted our time before. Has wasted many a sales rep. So don't waste time on things that aren't going to drive value for either side of the equation.
Has to move the needle forward. That's the rule.
So I think that's been a pretty good session here today. Obviously, this was a question from our Relevate community. And so we decided to delve a little bit more down onto that one. We're rolling out topics every week. Now, we did tell a little bit of a lie last week that we were going to start in the mornings to try and capture the US market and, Australians that are working or early risers, because by the end of a Friday, there's a lot going on. So catch us next week at 8:30 a.m. We've dedicated to that one. And so it's going to be much easier to pump those out, and we'll probably be a bit fresher. But nonetheless, if you ask a question in the community, you'll more than likely see it here. If you're watching along, please do let us know in the comments if you've got any questions you want us to address, and we'll do our best to answer. But otherwise, thank you for watching. Did you have anything else to add, Amanda?
No, I think we nailed that. I think we did great. Good job, everyone.
That's it. Well, you stay classy, and we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time.